I'm sorry, so sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. Oops, I'm sorry. So sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. Oops, I'm sorry. So sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. So sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry.
Alex, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself? Thank you for the invite. I'm so excited to be a part of this show.
I'm so excited. For one, I'm so excited for you to come on again because we had technical the first time.
We did that.
I'm very glad that you reached out and then you gave me a chance to interview you again. Thank you.
No, definitely. It was a pleasure the first time. The second time is gonna be better.
Exactly. You know what's crazy? Like out of all the people I've connected with in like the poly community, you're probably the most supportive out of everybody I've connected with.
I appreciate that.
I think that's
I love when people take the initiative to open their doors and go after their passion, what they're passionate about. And you're creating a space. Why not support someone out there just taking a risk? It's already the lifestyle that we're choosing to do. And then now we're doing it publicly and creating something behind it. That's, man, biggest fan right here.
Thank you so much. I know I'm really excited about meeting you at this event that the Polypalooza is having.
Yes, it's the second annual of the award show. And it's just basically that. The reason I created the award show is because I noticed that it takes a lot, like I just said, for people like us to come out, open our doors, share our story. It takes a lot. And then we have a following, we have supporters, we have people reaching in and tapping in because they feel inspired to actually just share their truth. And it makes it easier, to navigate through their journey. So to me, I was like, we need to show each other appreciation and support. So I created the award show, the first annual, and awarded some of our biggest influencers. You're talking about Kenya from the Brother Husband Show, the Regal Love. Regal Love, they've been in the game pioneers. He's been poly for over 20 years. He actually came from a polyamorous family where his mother was polyamorous. He's an older gentleman. I mean, with some of the OGs of the game. And it's really like Marjani too. Marjani, there was about 6-7 winners first year. This year, don't ask me all the names, but it's influencers, it's educators, it's people out there doing what they need to do, podcast people that's sharing the story. And I just love to connect with them, show them support. And what better to give them recognition, not only from me, but from the overall community, giving them an award, come up behind it. And we come together and celebrate.
When I saw them posted up and I saw Remodeled Love and dang, I can't remember their Instagram name. It's a couple, but I
Pursuit of Poly.
Oh yes, Pursuit of Poly. When I saw them up there, I'm like, oh, I'm going for sure. I cannot wait to meet them. I love them. I know Remodeled Love. She's just so dope and unique, and I love her so much. And I cannot wait to meet her. Cannot wait.
She is cool. She has a crazy dynamic, and I love it. And that's what we're supposed to do for each other. I think at the end of the day, I don't care what you practice, as long as you're practicing it and keeping it ethical and consensual, it should be supported. Because at the end of the day, you are the resemblance of our community. And that's very big right there. Definitely excited about that.
I know. I don't know if I personally would be able to be in her dynamic, but I love how she is herself unapologetically. She doesn't care. And she's just true to who she is. I love how vulnerable she can get if she says something that makes people feel uncomfortable. I've seen her go up and apologize, or I had to hop up in because people are so mean. I would have to hop up in her comments. Wait, hold up, because people are so mean. She's human. She's gonna make mistakes, but she'll come out and she'll admit her mistakes. And I love that about her. She just seems so like genuine and down to earth.
She is really down to earth. She got a lot of projects coming out. I know she put a family book together that we're featured in. She does a lot of work behind the scenes too. So I really love connecting and working with her. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in exploring non-monogamous relationships?
I don't got the fairy tale story, but that's what I always say. Mine started from infidelity. I didn't know nothing about poly or non-monogamy or nothing like that. Me and Shalon, we were together at that point for 17 years. And then instead of actually really communicating, we just stopped communicating. We stopped being affectionate. We stopped a lot of things in the household. And what I did, instead of really taking the conversation to her, I went and just connected with somebody else who was Chantel. And when Shalon found out, she asked me if I was talking to somebody else or engaged with somebody else. And I told her, I was like, yes, I am. We're not right. We're not in the place where our marriage is happy. Of course, it was a lot. It was painful, a lot of things. It was chaotic. And I knew what I did was selfish. She brought the conversation. This was probably 3 months after the initial thing had happened. And she was like, well, I want to meet her. I want to go ahead and see who this woman is. I never talked negative towards Shalon about it, or Chantel about it. I didn't talk negative to Shalon about it. So I was like, okay, yeah. So we set it up from that point. And then when they met, they just clicked. It was odd. It was weird. They had went to the bathroom for like 30 minutes. I thought they were fighting. I was like, oh shit. I have this picture where I ordered this big margarita. It's like I had to hold it with both hands. Cause I had ordered like 2 orders of wings. I had sat there so long by myself, but they was in the bathroom talking. When they came out, we ate wings, and then we just decided to drive to Lake Charles to go gamble. Man, that's like a 2-hour drive. I don't know why we did that, but I was with whatever they wanted to do. I was like, oh, we're getting along. This is cool. But that's like I said, mine is not the perfect story. You know what I mean? But we were able to still communicate throughout the whole situation. But one thing I do want to tell people, because a lot of people do seek because they hear my story and so like, oh, well, you know what? If I'm dealing with someone that is a cheater, this is gonna fix it. No, that did not fix our relationship. It actually brought it more challenges. At the end of the day, I had to realize I was moving in a selfish space. So there was a lot of things I needed to do, work on myself, and then I still had to work and rekindle and reestablish that relationship with Shalon. That didn't take no months, and somebody coming in fix it. It made it more challenging because now we're dealing with someone where she was looking at like this was the one that I chose to almost destroy my family behind.
Right.
So it was a lot of the process of healing and working through things with each other. Finding grace, giving each other grace, giving ourselves grace. There was a lot of times we had to have those deep conversations. It wasn't Polly did not fix my relationship with Shalon.
It brought the issues to the surface, and you had to work through them.
Yes, and we had to stand up and work through that. And the good thing about it is, I knew regardless while I was still working and healing that relationship, I couldn't neglect the other relationship that I was establishing and building with Chantel. So it had its
even more complicated because that makes her Shalon feel like she is not, she has issues with that. Yeah.
I just wanted to express that because a lot of people sit there and I look at memes and fix it. Cause no, a cheater's gonna cheat if they want to cheat regardless. I knew where I stumbled and I messed up. I was with this woman for 17 years. I never did nothing like that. At the beginning we had our challenges on her end, but we moved past them and we had our relationship. Then when I felt neglected and not really responding, I ain't gonna lie to you, I thought Shalon was doing a lot of things that she did at the beginning of our relationship. We were young. She made her mistakes. So when we disconnected, I thought she was back to her old ways. So what did I do? I responded instead of communicating. My dumb ass, my selfish self just went out there and said, man, I'm gonna play the game too. And it wasn't even that. It was things I neglected to really connect with her and communicate to see what was going on. I just did a selfish move. I want people to understand that cheating probably does not fix a cheater. They had to work on themselves and fix the situation. But yeah, that is my story. And we still didn't even know we were poly. That's the crazy thing. We still didn't even know we were poly.
What poly was.
Well, we didn't know. We were 3 people just living together and figuring shit out. And then we were watching something. We were watching something on Showtime, and it was like 3 people together, and they're like, oh, we're a poly family. I was like, oh shit, what the hell? So I started Googling polygamy and polyamory and all that extra stuff. And then that's when I started educating myself to understand what the hell we were doing.
Honestly, it's so funny because like I kind of fell into poly too. It was I was dating this guy and I'm just kind of like, hey, I like girls. And he like, oh, really? Because I got somebody who'd be down. And so and I mean, technically it was just supposed to be a threesome. He did suggest that like we go out on a date to see if we clicked first. And so that's what we did. We went out on a date, we all clicked, and it was like we were always with each other. Like, it got to the point where we were with each other so much, all 3 of us, he started to push us to have our like own individual, me and her to have our own individual relationship. So me and her would like hang out and at that time I didn't know what poly was. And then when I finally learned what poly was, I still hadn't done no like research or anything on it. I just knew that like deep down I identified as poly, but I was still like dating monogamous men, which 10 out of 10 I do not suggest dating monogamous men, because in my experience they cheat. So, and that's what I was, or lie. Like that's what I was dealing with, a lot of men lying. I'm like, and I would literally be like, hey, I'm polyamorous. So if you got other bitches, tell me. Like literally. And they still would lie. But I think it's more so because I've always been very upfront. Like if I find out about other women, they need to know like the full situation because they need to be able to make informed consent. So I think that they hid it because they didn't know if the other woman would be okay with it. And so that was a whole thing. It was just like a mess. And so I started to like really research polyamory, and I'm like, oh, this is like really what I want to do. And I don't think monogamous men are gonna do it for
No, and
monogamous men.
it's crazy, right? Because you want to control the narrative, and that's basically it. We know the response is not gonna be what we can control or what we want, maybe, because if you open up the box and saying, "Hey, I want to date other women," then they're gonna tell, "Well, I want to date another man," and now instantly, most men don't want to have that situation on them. Man, when I learned how to let that go, because I can't control, and rule number one, if you try to control what you can't control, controls you, and I'm not going to allow anything in that space to control me. So when we were having those discussions, being non-monogamous or whatever, it felt better because I felt like I was able, not that I'm looking for anybody or anything like that, but it's able to tell, Shalon and be transparent with her, especially at this point, like, hey, I think I want to talk to this person, or hey, I think this engagement with an individual has me a little bit interested, just to keep her aware and her still come from an understanding point that, okay, well, this is who you are. You know what I mean? And it's cool to have that type of communication to where before I didn't know how it would have went or how it would go. I lacked the communication with her, you know what I mean? I was trying to control the narrative to not face any consequence. And that's what most people are. And a lot of people are still stuck there mentally, not realizing you get more relieved from stress just being transparent and being honest with the person you're trying to take life on with.
Right. I know, like last night I had a conversation with someone who had been showing interest or whatever, and we finally had like our first phone conversation. And then he tells me he's married, and then he's like, basically his wife doesn't know that he sleeps with other women. Yeah. And so he's like, so we got into, because now I'm trying to educate him. So we got into the whole conversation of polyamory. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I'd be able to do that, because he said it like literally out of his mouth. I don't think I'd be able to do that because I don't think that I would be okay with her sleeping with another man. If she slept with another man, I wouldn't even want her anymore. And I was just like in my head, like, wow.
I always tell people, go with preference is your preference, and be in alignment. But the way you want to move, make sure everybody is aligned with who you are. If a man, because I know you're a polygynous man, that the women are monogamous to them, and in that space they find alignment with those partners. Because Shalon and Chantel, they were monogamous to me. Well, they would engage with each other, but that's when we alter our situation.
It was close, right?
Yeah.
They have threesomes and he steps out on them, and that's confusing because, like, if you want to just, okay, whatever. I don't even...
Possibility, no one knows what possibility is going to look like. I want to control the narrative.
Right. What was your experience like coming out as a non-monogamous to your friends and your family, and how did they react?
For me, it wasn't even really much or nothing. I think the only funny comment, those two funny comments. My pops, he was like, "Oh, you should." It was like, "You want to get two women? You want to have two women? One's already gonna kill you. Adding another one's gonna kill you twice as fast." So that was funny. And then my mother, when she came into Houston to come visit, it was funny because she was like, she had walked into the house and she was like, "What do y'all do?" I was like, "What do you mean, what do we do?" She was like, "Where's like the swing shit and the holes and everything?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Well, y'all live this freaky deaky life." I was like, "We live a normal life." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Nah." She was like, "Cause if I have me too, I'm gonna have swings, I'm gonna have cups here." And I'm like, "Yo, you bugging."
Ain't nothing wrong with the swings and the cups.
There's nothing, but that's private. That's that private. But no,
right.
Like, friends wise, of course they'll support. I'm a man, so at the end of the day, most men are always they're gonna receive it a little different. The challenges came more from Shalon and Chantel. The craziest challenges I seen, right, was Chantel's family. Of course, her father was a little bit apprehensive towards the situation, but still, within due time, he's gotten relaxed with me. He understands my purpose and point with her. We are a family with how we created this space. I always used to tell Chantel on her end, I can't force nothing for them to understand. In time, it's going to be explained. because then you'll see the longevity at 8 years. Up to this point, it's been 8 years. They understand his family. We do holiday family together and everything. Her family received it a little different. Of course, they questioned it a little bit, but after time, they understood it. Shalon's mother, she lived with us. So she had been here from the get-go, seen the transition on how things kind of went. I would say on my side with them, my mother couldn't let go of her loyalty to Shalon to welcome in Chantel due to the fact that she seen me and Shalon together for 17, 18 years. Now, this other woman then came into the picture. She didn't know how to receive her. So she received her a little bit with resistance. Like, man, look, at the end of the day, I don't know what you're here for, but I know she's been here and this is my daughter. That's just it. And her mindset stopped her from actually growing and connecting with Chantel. There was a point I had to talk to my mother. I had to pull her aside and be like, yo, you got to let that guard down and understand you have to open this genuine connection with her too as well. And that's a lot of things we don't talk about in non-monogamy of how that structure looks like when our families have to go against their loyalty to that family member they're already used to being around. Because that was
Right.
something different. That was something different.
Right. What have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in navigating non-monogamous relationships, and how have you overcome them?
What are some of the biggest challenges I faced in non?
I know you talked about how the challenges you face, but on a regular basis, what were some of the challenges?
Well, jealousy is always going to be the biggest thing, right? Because we never know what's going to actually make us jealous until the actual moment happens, right? And that's where we have to kind of regulate ourselves. Jealousy always been in time management. Time management is probably my biggest enemy. Outside of jealousy was more of a stem from the insecurity, and the insecurity is more of a me thing that I have to navigate through. But most people are very emotional explosive. So that has been a lot of challenges to take a lot of the emotional moments and trying to navigate through them to validate and figure solutions out with two individuals that it gets crazy. It just gets crazy. But time management too, that's been man, my schedule's crazy because I still got to get my time in. Then Shalon's time, then Chantel's time, then I got kids. And time management too is very difficult to a non-monogamy. I want to add one more thing. I try to think of what to add because there's so much. I forgot it. I had it on my mind, but I forgot it. My apologies.
Right. The very first relationship, it's so funny because I haven't really experienced any jealousy since then. But the very first relationship, I remember feeling jealousy, but she was so emotional all the time. She felt all her emotions, like happiness, like all her emotions were extra. So I had to keep my shit inside, and I would sit and have conversations with him, but it never came out angry. It's just because I felt like he was already overwhelmed because she was a lot like to deal with emotions wise. And so I just kind of never said anything. I think that was probably my biggest problem, is that she would act out at like the worst times, right? We could be like in the middle of something and she would like roll over, curl up in a ball, and I'm like, oh. Now I'm sitting there with my arms crossed, mad because he's coddling her and trying to get her to feel better. And so now I'm not getting attention. This is brand new for all of us. And they were all younger, a few years younger than me. It was like all brand new for all of us. So I was just like, it was a lot. It was just so much.
You know, it's crazy. And that's the one thing we don't talk about. That was the other thing where sometimes when we see certain situations, they could drain us, they could pull out of us, and then when it's our time to connect with the other individual, it's not the same because it becomes so much. And I think that's one challenge that we don't talk about, is shifting that energy from one relationship and transferring it to the other. Mm-hmm. That is a crazy balance. But once you kind of figure out how to compartmentalize each relationship and not transfer nothing over, it makes it a little easier. But I've been in that type of situation too. I'm not even gonna hold you.
I think that's probably like one of the biggest challenges for me was dealing with the jealousy, trying to deal with mine, but trying not to be too much because her feelings were a lot. And because there was never like no sit down, let's have a conversation about this. It was just everybody was feeling their emotions. Like I said, me and him would talk about it, and me and her did eventually talk about it. And then it came to the point where we're like, our jealousy, this is irrational, like both of us. But she would still react. Like whenever we were all together, she would still have her reactions, even though me and her came to terms that we were both being irrational.
That's the importance of emotional regulation. You know, it's crazy. So y'all never created safe spaces?
Well, it was brand new for us. Like I said, we didn't make it past. That situation did not last very long because he was like, I throw my hands up. Me and him still dealt with each other after that, but I was like talking to him about bringing somebody else in, and he was just not having it. He's like, I can't do it.
A couple things, right? Is that's the one thing that I couldn't get with. But I tell people at the end of the day is you can't bring somebody else in if you haven't fixed the issues within that first situation. Because then you got to start questioning yourself, am I really bringing them in because I'm trying to love more, I have more to love, or am I really just trying to find an escape? And there's a very big...
At that time, I think it was a lot about sex, but...
Hey, I'm with it. I support that. I like that.
Right. I was young. This was like, well, not younger, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago. So I was a little bit younger, but not much. But this was like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was a lot about sex. And then also I don't come from a huge family dynamic, I do, but we're not close. I'm kind of like the black sheep. So even having that support, the support that I did from having both of them in my life, I think I might have been addicted to that. The fear of not having somebody, like if he's busy, not having somebody else to call in the event that he's busy and I needed support in whatever way. I might have been addicted to that a little bit as well.
I can see that. Yeah.
But I didn't feel like me and him had any issues. Me and him communicated very well. I just think that we weren't able to solve the problems because I thought in my head at that time that it was like literally her. She just didn't know how to manage her emotions, and it was spilling over into everything that we did.
Were you the one coming into the relationship?
No.
Or y'all just came together?
We were both dealing with him just separately.
Okay, and then
and then we came in together.
Do you feel like her emotions, like outside? I know we're going somewhere else, but because this is something that people need to hear because that happens. That happened in my situation. And one thing, let me ask this question. Did you feel like your relationship was basically getting navigated by her? And that happens a lot. A lot of people don't understand that I forgot what it's called. It's called something, and it's where basically you start navigating the other person's relationship due to the fact of how you're emotionally spilling out and the chaos that's being created due to the fact that you may feel that you're not getting loved or you're not receiving the love that you want, or you feel like FOMO. A lot of people deal with FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. When you two are out there, all that, during their emotions, stressed and depressed and conflicted emotionally, now they're causing chaos when you come back due to the fact now that's friction amongst you guys.
Right.
And it because, man, we dealt with that. We dealt with that for a good minute. And then that's why I always tell people study JOMO, joy of missing out. You find yourself in a position of learning yourself, start to regulate your emotions. You'll be more stable emotionally, more happier because you'll understand some things are not for you and it's okay for you not to be a part of it. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's called something.
And I think that what hurt that situation a lot was just the fact that she felt a lot of emotions, and she wasn't emotionally intelligent at all. I'm usually the one acting crazy. It's usually me. I couldn't, because I felt so bad for him. I felt so bad for him because I'm like, this is a lot. And so when she would flip out and she would do this, all of the attention would go to her. And I think that she it's like a kid, right? If my daughter falls out and I'm like, oh, baby, what's wrong? She's going to do that all the time. And so it turns into that. That's if we were engaged in any way and she felt like she wasn't getting attention in that moment, instead of speaking up like an adult, she would have a tantrum. And so now he's paying the attention to her, and I'm the one sitting there. My clothes are off.
I support that. I like that. No, I'm just playing. No, but that is the importance of communication. And this is just, you weren't the only one that experienced that. That was something we experienced too as well. I always tell people, you could not, your biggest challenges are always going to be within the first 3 years of your poly relationship with the certain individual you're dealing with. Due to the fact that all of y'all are tapping into new situations and new emotions, and then how to process and navigate through them. And you never know how it's going to look until you're actually there. And
Right.
yeah, sometimes people that don't know how to sit and just communicate, hey, I have an issue with this, and be transparent and let it be known of what's going on so we can all resolve it. You get that. And then sometimes it's just like, man, come on now. Can we
I
just
know.
talk?
Right. And even in the last couple that I dated, even with them, I noticed coming in the little things that she would do to try to control the situation. I was already out. I was out before. It's so funny because now that I'm older, I maneuver things. Remember, it was the situation I told you about where dude was complaining
The nip slips and all that.
Exactly. She would do little stuff like when we were all on the phone, she'd dismiss me off the phone. All right, well, call us when you're done with this, or call us when, but I'm on the phone with you guys right now. You're not. And I would sit on the phone intentionally because you're not going to just dismiss me. That's rude. But it was clear who was running stuff. It's so funny because he thought that he was running stuff, but she literally had complete control over the relationship. And I would not have put it past them if she's the one who brought up the conversation about my kids. Not doubt it. Would not doubt it. And that was her way of, because like I said, when we were all texting, she didn't even speak in the text messages. Yeah. And that's suspicious. Like, just speak your opinion if you have an opinion. This is a group text message. He texted me in the group. Yeah. But the group's not speaking. It was just one of those situations. Okay, she probably wanted to know about this conversation and how this conversation went. And I don't want to ever be in a situation like that where it felt hierarchical. I know how to navigate certain things because I was going to talk to him, but me and him, it went from a point where we would have our solo conversations because we were all long distance. She lived in San Francisco, he lived in LA, but where we would have our solo conversations, and then we got to the point where we never had solo conversations. So I was waiting. I would call him, he wouldn't answer, and then we would call back. It was all three of us on the phone. So I was going to talk to him, but we never got a chance to even have a conversation about it because she was always on the phone.
No, one-on-ones are very important, right? The individual relationships, if we're not focusing on them, then the overall relationship is going to fall apart.
Right.
What's her name? Jessica, I think her name was. She had the best analogy that she had was you got to think about a throuple. A throuple's relationship is like a kitchen table. It has 4 legs, and each leg represents each of the relationship. So one leg will be AB, the other leg will be BC, the other leg will be AC, and the last leg is ABC, all of them together. And if you want to keep your foundation stable, all legs need to be worked on as needed, and those individual times are just as important as all 3 of them together. And that's facts at the end of the day, right? But a lot of times what we do, right, coming into situations where we're tapping into certain things, relationship guider, that's what it's called, because they're guiding the relationship. So you become a relationship guider by doing different tactics. And a lot of the tactics that they use, due to the fact that they don't know any other way to actually mess with that relationship. And sometimes some people do it unknowingly because they're still conflicted emotionally. So what they'll do is they'll use fog. Fog is an emotional blackmail tactic, right? It's horrible. They use your fear. They use fear, obligation, or guilt, which pushes you in a position of guilt. They may react or do something just to put you kind of in a shock position. Sometimes they'll throw the title or position, or they did something for you. That'll be the obligation. And then after that, they'll guilt you. And it's just a tactic to manipulate you, to try to make you do what they want. But sometimes, again, like I said, sometimes people do it unknowingly because they may have adopted that from somebody else or experienced or they were raised like that. And that's what you do see in non-monogamy. We don't talk about enough.
I know. I think that was the biggest thing that was lacking in both of the situations. The first one and that last one was that we never got individual time together, because even in the first situation, we weren't. I think that was what fueled her jealousy so much, was because he never spent time with her outside of me. You got to remember, he was dating us separately. So he was spending time with me, he was spending time with her, then we all get together. And now she's not getting any more alone time. Her fear was that we were spending alone time together outside of her, and that created that issue. I did before this last couple I dated another couple, and the wife, she's the one who approached me, but and I don't just date couples, but that's just,
hey, I support it all, whatever it is, as long as you know.
I don't just date couples, but what's funny, because I'm a single woman, I mean, you know how it is. I don't have to tell you. That's who I attract, couples or really weird dudes. But single dudes. But no, even in that situation, she was sharing her. She's like pushing him. Oh, spend time, spend time. I love that. That was literally my favorite relationship. He ended up being the weirdo. And so that was the whole trying to get with me behind her back. But me and her had built such a strong foundation from the beginning that that wasn't gonna happen. So we're still friends, but we all it was I had time with him, I had time with her, and then we had our time together, and that's how, like, literally how it's supposed to be. And had he not been a weirdo, it'd probably still be happening.
That's what's up. And that's what and what's crazy, right? When it comes to situations like that, it is about that. I think the women actually connecting more, or like Kenya's situation, having a brother husband, if the two that you're trying that are the same gender, I guess you could say, whatever, that are the one that's been there and the one that's coming in, if they create a relationship outside of y'all and it's really like flourishing and actually being with, the relationship's always going to do well. It's the moment
we
that
built the
we're
relationship first. I think that's how, because she reached out to me. He didn't reach out to me. I think that's how the foundation was set. Honestly, he was like the third wheel.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sometimes some people don't know what to do with these type of situations. I mean, just because it look good don't mean that I have the capability to handle what I need to.
Right, exactly.
That's cool. That's cool. I love it. I love things like that, right? Because when you can see people that actually get along and want to do for the relationship genuinely, it's amazing. And it doesn't feel like you're trying to force a concept on anybody.
And people like to make it so much, oh, the men coerce them. No, women, this is, sometimes it's the women's idea. Sometimes it's the women leading the pack. Even in that situation, it was us leading the situation. He didn't much control.
That's what's up. That's facts. That's how it goes.
How has polyamory impacted your understanding of love and relationships, and how has it shaped your beliefs and values around these topics?
Oh, is this a new question?
Did
you ask me this last time?
No,
this is a good one. Oh no, you can't left field with that one. I'll say non-monogamy, right? Non-monogamy has kind of shifted things in my world, right? I love what non-monogamy presents, because it gives you the ability. I think people love to try to sell this concept of unconditional love, but only family, your grandparents, your mother can really present that. In a relationship, your significant other is always going to be the first in the mud with you. And this is outside of, if something happens to me, if something goes on, the first person that's going to be impact is going to be Shalon. There are going to be certain conditions she's going to put on me in the position to make sure I'm loving her correctly and showing up in this relationship correctly, right? People got to be easy on sometimes love may be conditioned in the right, healthy way. We can love forever, but at the end of the day, it's hard to be unconditional. But the one thing we can be, and the one thing that I feel like we find in non-monogamy, is we're unconditionally accepted. We don't have to sit there and hide who we are, shift, or try to present anybody else of who we truly are. Think of a black sheep from your family. The black sheep from the family is never accepted. What do? They roam and they find somebody else or another tribe of their own, a family of their own that can think alike like them, accept them for they are, and not try to make them or put them to an expectation that you wanted them to be. And that's what non-monogamy is. It puts us in a place to sit there and say, I don't have to pretend to be this person. Mm-hmm. I could tell you this is going to be my journey and be transparent with you. You could be supportive of me because you understand who I am. And that's the best type of love to have. The best type of love is to know you can show up in full form, not trying to play with somebody or try to be somebody else's expectation. Just be who you are and know that you do have certain places of error where you're growing or whatever it is. But they're going to genuinely love you for you, not who they want you to be. Yeah. And that's dope. And that's what I think that's kind of made me shift my mindset of non-monogamy, is that we create those spaces for each other to be who we want to be and accept it regardless. Flaws and all.
That's what I love. That's what I love. I swear, I found my family within the community. And although I haven't built any close connection in the community yet, I can see the ones that are forming. And that's exciting to me because I didn't have that. I didn't have family. I mean, like I said, me and my family, I was the black sheep. That's what I love so much about this community, is that everyone's so accepting and loving, and it's really dope.
It's so dope. You someone come to you and be like, "Hey, how's your love life going? I'm dating this person, but it didn't work out too well. Oh, with this person, I got this person too. Most people, oh my God, you're a slut. You are this, and over here it's like shit. That's crazy. You ain't your time ain't crazy or whatever. We coming from more an understanding point. The conversations feel more welcoming, more understood, more no judgment. That's the biggest thing. No
Dang,
matter
you
what
always
you
got
do.
somebody new.
Man, there's a joke, right? I was telling people, right? Because they'll be like, yo, how I know you could tell who doesn't really support people living this lifestyle. Yeah. When people that just I know they're being nosy in my situation. How's the family? How's things going? I would be like, man, today was kind of hectic. I was arguing with my girlfriend, then my wife had to give me advice on how to handle that girlfriend, but I don't even know because I think my wife setting me up, so I don't even like my girlfriend. This is what y'all want, right? So no, it's cool. I think this community is so dope because we come from an understanding point, and no matter how you see your dynamic being structured, there's no judgment behind it because we all know we're living plural relationships, and it's beautiful.
Exactly. What advice do you have for individuals who may be struggling to find acceptance and support for their non-monogamous relationships?
Ooh, connect with your community. The most beautiful thing about it, 5 years ago, you could put Black and poly or just poly anything, and it was rare what came up. Now these days is there's so many people doing things and creating communities. Is at the end of the day, find you the right community that you align with and connect with the individuals there in that space. Go to these events, go to those meet and greets. Support podcasts like this and help grow that community too as well. And like that, you'll never really feel alone. Have questions, ask, and connect.
Yes, absolutely. And how can they build a community that affirms their choices and identities?
I can't tell them how to build a community, but I can tell them how to support a community. join a community. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't want to build; they want to join. That's why, to me, if you could join, at least help.
Build and join. Look, check this out. I'm trying to be like the kingdoms back in the day, like in Game of Thrones. Like you got this kingdom over here and you got this kingdom over here, and we got to come together to fight these wars. That's what I'm trying to do. Build my own community and combine forces with.
I support that. That's why I say I can't tell them, what it is, but I think everybody should join whatever community they align with and help build or add to that community. At the end, the overall goal should always be bringing us all together and connecting us in all supportive ways. One thing I do want to sit there and say, I think people need to sit there and reframe to not let their love style come before their children or family before that, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up living unapologetically, trying to be non-monogamous that we neglect our children at times. Because, and what I mean by that is like, we're so caught up in the hype of the new relationship energy. So we're going from one partner, locking in that partner, getting another partner, seeing who else we connect. And we're not creating no space or no time for our children because we're getting so caught up in the excitement of non-monogamy and what we're able to do being in this community. Now, one thing I like to tell people, make sure that, you're there for those children too. Because sometimes they do get neglected, and what's the whole point and purpose if this is not about family overall?
Exactly. Another thing too is what do you think? This is a random question. What do you think about introducing, because we live a lifestyle where we're dating multiple partners? How do you think there's a time frame before introducing new partners to your kids? Would it be the same as monogamy?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It has to take time, right? You have to see how the relationship is going to be invested. You don't want to bring somebody around that may not be there long term, and that's due to the fact also because our children connect to the people we bring in. My children to Chantel, that's stepmom, that's mom, that's bonus mom, that's everything. So if this relationship will really go left all the way and the damage that's going to come from all that is going to be a lot. The children get affected. I remember the first time we separated. I'm going to go ahead and tell the story. So that was the first time, right? This is the first time it was just too chaotic. And this is where emotions were high. This is what probably like a year and a half in. I don't even remember, but she was already growing and connecting. We all lived together, so she was already growing and connecting with both my children, Sean and Alexis. But me and her and Shalon it was just chaotic because we weren't creating those spaces that were needed to really solve and resolve and get the solutions we needed for our relationship. There was too much tension, so it had reached the point to where like, okay, we can't do this no more.
Right.
I'm done with this. And so, of course, she had already moved some of her stuff in. And it was like, all right, well, then I guess then go if you want to go. When she was packing her bag, of course, it was a very emotional moment. But my kids started breaking down and started begging her to stay, because that was a lot for them, especially when they seen their parents stay together throughout everything. And now this person that they took in to see as an extra parent, like now they're packing their stuff and going. Like my daughter was bawling, like she couldn't believe that. And that's why you have to be very conscious of who you're bringing around your children, because those relationships are relationships too. They're not romantic or anything, but they're still a relationship that they're developing with your children. And what you do when things do not work out in your favor, and some of us are not emotionally immature and we want to shove these people out of their life, you're breaking that apart too as well. Whatever relationship they grew into. So yeah, I would say just see what the relationship looks like before you bring your children around anybody, because that investment looks different on their side.
And that's friends too. Shit, I think that people are more lax when it comes to introducing their kids to their friends, but it should be the same with friends too. Not only polyamorous relationships, because if your kids are getting attached to the people that you bring into your life, and then they just all of a sudden disappear, that has a lasting effect on them.
Facts. I'm very picky about the people I be around. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's just my character, Oh no, but I'm very big on friends, right? I want to. If I don't deal with a lot of people that aren't showing up that how they're needed. I don't deal with men that abandon their children. I don't deal with men that disrespect the woman that has their children. I don't try to be in their business, but I look at how you conduct yourself. Why? Because I believe everything around me is a representation of me. So I can't call somebody that I feel that neglects their children or anything like that. I need someone that's going to be on that same path as me, that same kind of engagement of what I do and how I move, because that's what I need around me to fuel me too as well. So yeah, I agree with you with the friend thing. Like, yeah, it's definitely, you got to be cautious about who you bring your children around, due to the fact that those are going to be relationships that grow too. And I want lifelong anything around my children.
Right. Exactly. So I think we kind of touched on the next question a little bit. Can you share a pivotal moment in your journey that helped you understand and accept this relationship style?
A pivotal moment. And maybe we can use that one, right? I don't know. There's a few. You got me think I've been doing this for years. Nah, you know what? I'm gonna go back to another separation. Look, because me and Chantel, we separate every other whatever. Anyway, when this last time, before all that, whatever, I had to realize that I got into my emotions. And then I was like, man, fuck this. It's whatever. Like, I don't want nothing to do with anybody. Y'all can still keep the relationships, whatever. Like, I was going through some hurt. I was a hurt man. I was a hurt, spiteful man. Like, trying to keep distance, trying to do everything petty and all that. And what I realized is I don't have to maneuver in that space. Like, after I calmed down and got and navigated through my emotions, I realized the beautiful thing about non-monogamy is we get to create relationships how's needed. You know what I mean? And that was a pivoting moment of realizing I don't have to react because we're not here where I wish it to be. I can't force it to be, but I could create something to where we still live in peace and still are a family. And I think that was cool because now I was getting out of my ego and I was actually maneuvering the space as an equal. And so I think that was a cool thing about non-monogamy, that you get to structure relationships how you guys see work for you. Just because it ain't where you want it to be doesn't mean you can't create it where it needs to be.
Exactly. I agree. And what are some of the biggest misconceptions about polyamory that you've encountered, and how have you challenged them?
Oh, that it's just about sex.
Yeah.
It's just about sex. How have I challenged them? I try to have more sex. God damn, no, that's weird. It's all about sex. You know what? Let me get as much as I can. Damn it. No, to me, I hate that the misconception that it's all about sex. Sex is there. You have multiple people. You better be having sex multiple times with multiple people. If you're not, then, but it ain't only about sex. It's like all these things that I just explained before the point of sex are all different challenges that I had to go through. Now, sex,
you don't go through these challenges for people you care for. Why go through all you don't care about the people that you're going through it with? that part. I hate that that's the biggest
misconception that it's about sex. And the other one that we do to ourselves as a community is that we think poly relationships are cookie cutter. No dynamic's going to be the same. It's not going to be structured the same. It's not going to maneuver the same because you poly your way of however you want to create that. And that's cool. Everything is about being consensual and ethical. Outside of that, how that looks for you, I can't tell you. But
Right.
that I think those are the biggest two things that are the biggest misconceptions. Is if they tell y'all it's just about sex, tell them yes. Let's stop this narrative where no, it's not about yes. Yes, I love the sex. Are you serious?
If I got more partners, I need more sex than I was having before. I better not be having the same amount of sex I was having with one partner.
You know what I mean? What are we talking about? That'd be crazy. And I get it, right? Because we try to protect ourselves. No, it ain't about sex. No. You know what? Yes. I love to have as much sex as and whenever I can get it. If I could double up some days, I'll double up some days.
Monogamous relationships are heavy on the sex, especially men. Like when you guys first meet somebody, and women too, people always try to make it seem like it's just men that be thinking about sex on the first date. It be us too. We know how to hide it a little bit better, but it be us too. When you're dating in a monogamous situation, you are thinking about how the person possibly is in bed. And I think that's natural because, I mean, this is somebody that if you do last, you're going to be having sex with. Hopefully, if you like sex.
Hey, what are we doing here? Oh, here's another misconception, that it's manipulation. You got to understand, it's not manipulation. It's consensual and ethical. I know a lot of people aren't used to having the position of power, so they don't understand what that looks like for them. At the end of the day, these are people that are agreeing that they want this type of concept of relationship. They're not becoming a prisoner to someone else's concept of love. Now, they're sitting there saying, hey, I do believe I could be with somebody else that wants to be with somebody else. I do believe I do want to share myself with two other individuals. They come to this conclusion for themselves. They're not being manipulated because a lot of things in this community is self-choice. And that's why it's very important to actually communicate, be transparent, and make sure you align with what you prefer with the right individuals. Manipulation is not even really anything in this community when it comes to the relationships. Not saying that people can't be manipulated. Yeah. But I'm just saying a lot of people, it will never work in the
community.
It'll never work.
Manipulating people, right?
It'll never work if you don't do this for self-choice.
Right. I was talking. I had gotten to this little debate on Instagram. I love to debate on Instagram. Well, the marketers tell me that it's good to comment under the pictures, and it just so happens that sometimes my thoughts are contrary to what was posted. So I get into it. But anywho. And someone posted something about Nick Cannon's mom or Nick Cannon's baby's mom saying that she got turned on by when she saw him with his other baby's moms. And she was like, I could never, and all this or whatever, right? And then under the comments, I had to read the comments. Under the comments, it was like, oh, she's a weak bitch, and all these thoughts that they had. And yeah, he then convinced her and made it seem like Nick Cannon manipulated her into feeling this. And everybody had so much to say. And I, of course, had to jump in there. So for one, since Nick Cannon broke up with Mariah Carey, that man has been non-monogamous. And it's been known. So anybody who entered into a relationship with him knew that he was non-monogamous. Now, if his baby's mom, it's his second baby's mom, because Mariah's his first. If his baby's mom is still messing with him after all them baby mamas, they know he's non-monogamous. And at this point, it's a choice. They're like, oh, well, she probably thinks she can't get nothing better because of his money and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Still a choice. She's still giving her consent that you can do this. Irregardless of why she gives her consent, y'all can think she's miserable if you want to think that she's miserable. But if she's saying that seeing them together turns me on, she's probably not miserable, and she probably was not coerced into this.
Fact.
God.
But it's very hard, because people don't even, I don't think a lot of people have really sat there and asked themselves, are they doing monogamy for themselves, or have they been guilt and shamed into doing monogamy? A lot of people don't understand. They find themselves doing monogamy by default, not by choice.
Right.
So when you're structured in that sense, everything else, what you've been structured to believe, is you're always going to push against. It may sound good, it may be something you want to try, but you're going to push against it because you know you're going to be guilt or shamed into any other choice outside of that. But you see it right now. A lot of people right now, dating wise, right? We'll go to dating. And I don't want to say dating is practicing non-monogamy, but in some type of form, it almost is. You are entertaining and investing into multiple individuals. A lot of things when people sit there and say, I want a monogamous relationship for an individual to show up for me, still support me, try to create spaces with me, invest it so much time and everything with me so we could grow together. But while dating 5 individuals, how do you expect that to be created? You're not even homing into one individual to really focus on them and then present that yourself. You're asking for something from somebody to get it found within 5 other individuals. Make that make sense. When you narrow it down to one person, after all you're sorting, you're putting a lot of responsibility on one person when you were used to 4 others.
Exactly.
Because your practice is non-monogamous, trying to go into monogamy.
Right.
And that concept is crazy to me. But a lot of people, that's why I say a lot of people, they feel like if they don't narrow it down, they'll be guilt or shame instead of actually learning. You could just communicate. What is situationships? This situationship is a false concept of monogamy. I'm trying to understand situationship in non-monogamy. It could be identified as solo poly because you're dating multiple individuals, but they're all in the know. Whatever, it could be monogamous, but you're still dealing with people that know about each other. The situationship is you're not with somebody, but somebody may get mad if they found out you were out with this other person, but you're still interested in this other person because you're not going to let that other situation go. What are we doing here?
My thing is, why even go through all of that? It's so funny because why would anybody want to go through all of that drama? If you're going to go through the ups and downs and all the headaches, whatever, why not go through something so that you can work on making it better and improving it so that you get to a space where you're not always arguing and fighting, which is what non-monogamy or polyamory is, instead of being in a situationship or whatever and remaining in this toxic situation where you're questioning him about where he been, and you know where he been.
But I like when it comes to situations like that, dealing with the situationship, is because we love to control the narrative, right? If that woman sits there and tells one of those men that she is actually seen or talking to 3-4 of the men, that man is not going to go past just trying to be in the guts. I mean, it's not going to go past the sex portion anymore. So a lot of people, but it happens. Let's deal with the reality, not the delusion, right? The delusion will be like, oh, well, they're all still going to do everything no matter what. But a lot of people find themselves in the concept of, again, because they only understand monogamy, to sit there and say, well, let me just tell them enough to keep them around. And regardless, I don't want to commit. Do you know how many people out there are actually really dating, being emotionally unavailable, but sexually active, hyper-sexually active? That's what the dating pool is a majority of. What do you get? You find a lot of people that don't want the relationship responsibilities, but still want the connection, the sexual connection, and somewhat of the companionship, but not being available emotionally. Like, make that make sense. That shit sounds chaotic. They can never, those individuals can never shift into a situation into non-monogamy, because non-monogamy is going to put you in a position to be transparent.
Right.
Have to actually invest and manage relationships. Now we got to talk, and I got to really talk about myself, and I got to really know myself before I put myself in any type of situation. A lot of people don't want to do that self-work to find themselves in better situations. And that's what you see a lot out there right now.
How has your understanding and practice of polyamory evolved over time, and what have been some of the key lessons you've learned along the way?
That is a good question. Oh, you went back to the board. Hold on. I don't know. Because it's hard, right? I'm very big on the education of poly non-monogamy all over. Is just that, right? It's just learning and knowing the different dynamics and possibilities of different structures and what things look like under, especially non-monogamy, breaking down into 8 things. Polygamy, which is many spouses, polygyny, man with many wives, polyandry, woman with many husbands, and then polyamory with its endless diversity with many loves. Then monogamous, which is the hall pass concept. Open relationship, which is a relationship hierarchical but has outside sexual partners and connections. Swinger, just sexual connections, soft trade, hard trade, all that stuff. And the 2 that I said last time, BDSM and kink, due to the fact that you do bring someone into your bedroom for instructions, there may be no penetration. Now, I think knowing that all that is there and whatever you're practicing, how it doesn't really, you could blend some of them, because you could be swinger and polyamorous. But you could blend some of them and stack them, right? But I just know the education part of non-monogamy just showed me there's more to life. There's more that you could find within your journey of you. But the position of handling plural relationships, because relationships are just relationships. When I had to find myself to fulfill two different relationships with two different individuals, I thank non-monogamy for putting me there. But when I started studying relationships, I just advise people, start learning yourself, start learning relationships, because that's going to be the best thing for you. That's outside of non-monogamy. Non-monogamy just pushed me to get there. But overall, I learned how much you need the tools to actually succeed and have a healthy relationship. It's very necessary to have tools and understanding and have great examples of relationships. My grandparents were a great example of relationships. They didn't have the best of times all the time, but those worst times, they still got through them, and they showed me how to actually work through those things. 65 years. Those things, I think those things that non-monogamy put me in a position to actually start showing up for in my relationships. I guess that kind of evolved. If that makes sense. I know that was a lot. I know it was a lot. It's because I always tell people this, right? I was like, no matter how much you know about poly, it's never going to fix your relationship. Never. You can't sit there and say there's a lack of communication because you don't understand. There's so many different ways. There's passive emotional communication, passive aggressive emotional communication, aggressive communication, assertive communication. You want to be assertive with your communication, but these are things that you have to learn and really start to apply in this practice. Right. And when it comes to just poly, if you lack communication, I can't sit there and be like, oh, we're throuple. What the fuck does that even mean? We're throuple. Nigga, we need to talk about these issues and know how to communicate better. That's why I say poly doesn't help you evolve. Learning the right tools for the relationship, that's going to help you evolve.
Right. And what do you think are some of the most important traits or skills for individuals who are interested in pursuing polyamorous relationships? And how have you developed these qualities in yourself? You told me to make it hard for you.
You did. I got a good one for you too. I got a great response for you on that one. So what are some of the things that I would sit there to make their journey a little bit easier? I'm going to sit there and say, gain the education of what non-monogamy is so you understand what you align with. If it's polyamory, if it's polygamy, if it's whatever, know whatever thing you align with, the right individuals. Understand that coming into this situation, you may not be coming into a situation living in your truth with the ones you want to live it with. So reality, I sit there and say, work on yourself and have that structure. One of the biggest tools that I want y'all to have, that I want everybody to have, right, is the acronym RULER. And what RULER is because how me and Joy were speaking about at the beginning was about the emotional regulation. I mean, how much emotions are actually put out there. You're going to be tapping into certain things. The RULER is putting you in a position to actually regulate, because RULER is going to be R for recognition, because you want to recognize what emotion you're actually getting into or what's happening to you, right? I want to recognize I just got triggered by something. The U, understanding. You want to understand that emotion. You want to understand what it is. And then that's going to put you into the L where you label it. Well, I know I'm triggered. I know I'm feeling something. And then I know I'm mad right now. And then that's where you want to express it. Pause. I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little conflicted. Expand your vocabulary on the actual feeling. A lot of people don't expand their vocabulary. There's so many words to describe certain feelings, and you don't ever want to confuse or say the wrong thing or cause more chaos. When you label it and you express it correctly, so now you can regulate it. Recognition, understanding, labeling, express, regulation. But that's a great tool that you can actually use to learn yourself, regulate your emotions, and handle and find the solutions to any conflict you may be having in any relationship.
How do you balance and prioritize the different relationships and connections in your life?
It's going to be two things: time management and equality and equity, right? The relationships, love equal, love them, love everybody who you're going to love equal, because love is love, and that's just it at the end of the day. But equity is going to give you the understanding of each partner, of ways they may need you to show up. And this is from your love languages, of things and tactics to actually nurture your relationship and your bond with them, finding different rituals with them individuals. That's what I mean by equity, right? Because I'm going to have different rituals with Shalon that I would with Chantel, due to the fact that my partners are not the same. Creating those things that we're nurturing our relationship, that's what you're going to do to nurture your relationship and have equality, equity within the relationship. That's going to make it equal anyway, right? She may need 60, she may need 40, or however it goes. And time management is going to help you assist with that. Yeah, sometimes you may need to get you a schedule to make sure you prioritize every situation, because one thing we do as humans, because we do make mistakes, we put a lot of things on the back burner. I've been comfortable in many situations to where I'll eventually get into it. And what's crazy, right, is something I prioritize or something I value one of the most, but I also become too comfortable knowing that it's never going to be an issue until it piles up, right? And then it explodes. But I put it on the back burner and I create that to be my new normality. Time management is a very big thing, and nurturing your relationships and understanding you can love them equal, but the equity of the relationship is going more invested in how you nurture those bonds. Those would be my two things.
Okay. And then what strategies have you found helpful for maintaining healthy communication and boundaries with multiple partners?
Creating the safe space. Creating the safe space, right? That's where you got to express boundaries, renegotiations, check-ins with each partner. And that's when you actually get to be transparent with each other or anything that you may overlook. And right there at those moments, you got to reconnect and understand what is needed to make sure that y'all are at the right point of the journey and the experience and the relationship is going down the right route.
What is the traditional view of monogamy, and why is it considered the only acceptable form of relationship in society?
I'm not against monogamy. I support monogamy. I support anybody's choice. I'm pro-choice. That's it at the end of the day. But I think the only reason that it's acceptable is due to the fact that this concept, even though polygamy and polyamory, like polygamy and polyamory have been around way before then, you know what I mean? But this made a lot of more structured sense for a lot of individuals. So I think it's more acceptable because a lot of people right now can't even succeed a marriage in monogamy. So now you're telling the person to become successful handling multiple relationships when they can't even master one yet.
Right.
So that is very challenging and a concept for a lot of people to really take in. And at the end of the day, that's why I think society, it's going to be hard for them to transition and let go of monogamy and take this concept of non-monogamy. But I think it's more acceptable to understand one-on-one than three individuals coming together and trying to figure it out.
Right. I said I'm single, but even when considering being in a relationship, I'm like, hold up. Nope. I don't have the energy for it. Like, I don't have the energy. But the thing is, I feel so much more comfortable now in non-monogamy, being single, than I ever did in monogamy. And that's because I feel like when you're in monogamy, you're being pushed to be in a relationship, be married. And if a woman is not in a relationship and she's not married, there's something wrong with her, right?
Thanks.
And I don't feel that pressure as a non-monogamous woman because we don't have the same escalator. We don't have to go up the relationship escalator. We form relationships how we choose to form them. And we let them take on their own like lives, like whatever that may be. And so that pressure is not there anymore. I'm okay with sitting in my singleness and being like, I'm working on myself, instead of being like, oh my God, I'm so horrible. I'm such a horrible person. I can't find nobody. You would think that it would be worse. And it's so funny because maybe it's just the space that I'm in, because you would think that it would be worse in non-monogamy. Like, look, he can have multiple girls and he still don't want me.
That's messed up. That's facts though. Damn.
But no, I don't feel like that. I genuinely like so secure, and it also allows me, because now that when I think about it, I'm like, damn, when I do allow people to enter my space, if they're not working on themselves mentally or doing the work, then that's me welcoming multiple people in and creating more of a messed up dynamic.
That's dope.
How can societal expectations of non-monogamy or of monogamy be harmful to individuals who do not conform to that norm?
Resentment. When you don't create a space to allow someone to actually be who they truly are because we guilt and shame them, and now they have to suppress, it's going to cause resentment. And then you don't know how those type of situations could inflict someone in their life, the mental capacity, that it could be a lot of damaging things, right? Because we can't live who we truly are because we feel like we're guilt, shame, or judged. At the end of the day, we don't have no outlet, no escape. We don't even talk about and hold discussions about how many relationships in monogamy lasted about 40 years, but the relationship had ended 25 years ago. So all that life that those individuals could have lived, but due to the fact that they felt that they had to live up to some concept or someone else's expectation of what marriage is, and you fight through it regardless, because there's no room to rearrange or to negotiate or try to alter anything like that. You just got to thug it through. Now, for the last 25 years, instead of enjoying actually being loved and fulfilled in every way, they just sat there in that relationship and just existed. And I think at the end of the day, that's the part that we don't talk about. We just look at it, well, they lasted this long, but how many years of that were they truly, really happy?
And I know you touched on this a little bit, but what are the different forms of non-monogamy and how do they differ from one another?
polygamy, a majority of them could be marriage based, right? Marriage, it just is what it is, right? That's on you, your union. But polygamy is mainly structured out of marriage. It's gonna be many spouses, as it be, I said, a man with multiple wives, polygyny, and polyandry is a woman with many husbands. And in polyamory, you still have marriage in there, just depending on how it looks. Sometimes group marriage, sometimes the married couple may open their dynamic to connect with other boyfriends and girlfriends that they want to bring into their relationship and not marry those individuals or have some type of structured union. You have monogamous, where it could be a married couple who have put the rule into the relationship. You can have a hall pass this month or out of state or however they structure and they negotiate, right? And then, of course, open relationship, it'll be typically a married couple that are living together or however, and they have outside sexual partners that they connect with. And swinger life, that's self-explained right there.
Right, exactly.
But the main difference, the main difference is, right, is going to be that polygamy is marriage, solely marriage, nothing outside of that, right? Polygamy, you cannot be polygamous and swinger, but you could be swinger and polyamorous. And polyamorous, the practices are so different in polyamory that this is where you'll find the people that, like I said, that don't believe in the relationship escalator, or sometimes a relationship anarchy, when they find themselves only with genuine connections with the individuals that are around them. So that, when I say polyamory has so much diversity in how you want to create your unit, your union, your whatever you want at the end of the day, that's going to be the one where you want to find anything that you want. But everything else is kind of self-explained.
Right. I know. There was this person that was trying to talk to me, and he was just like full hell bent. Oh, why aren't you polygamous? And I'm like, bruh, because I'm not married. Literally, I'm not married. And he was like, he was all into polygyny. He wasn't married himself. And his concepts behind it I was so confused. And I'm literal with the terms. I'm so literal. This is what this means. We're not going out this box to try to make it seem like it's what you mean. And I'm like, literally, like I said, I'm right now, I'm solo poly, but I'm not close to any dynamic. Whatever shapes or forms my relationship takes, that's the direction I'm gonna go. And I think he was so confused by that, but I think that he might have been a little close-minded, because he was on some women have to submit to men, which I agree to a certain extent, because I also think that men need to submit to women as well. The submission is double-sided, not one-sided. But he was on some whole nother stuff, and he's so bad to agree to being polygynous, and I'm not married. I don't have a ring on my finger.
So I agree. I agree. When it comes to healthy relationships, right, we compromise, right? People sit there and say, I'll never make sacrifices. Well, then change sacrifice to understanding, because either way, we'll come to an understanding. If you want to look at it as a sacrifice, it doesn't matter. The switch of the word, right? And then when we sit there and say submit, change submit to compromise. Because at the end of the day, when you're compromising with someone and trying to get this understanding with somebody, you're submitting in some way, shape, or form. There's so many different ways as men that we do submit to the woman. But it's just a great point that how do we expect this to work and develop if we're not trusting each other in different spaces? I'm very aware that Shalon may strive a little bit better in certain places than I can. So I do allow that space to take lead. I'm here to follow. And in my way, I'm still going to support. A lot of people aren't really understand that concept, because they believe the only way that a functioning relationship really works is one person is dominant and only leads and take way. But no, people don't understand. And this goes out to all my kings and all this extra stuff. The most powerful person in the kingdom was the advisor. It was never the king. Because when another kingdom came to take over, the only person that still stuck around was the advisor to help the new king take place and set order. Who's the strongest person in the kingdom? The advisor. But a lot of people don't even understand that.
It was the one who was really making the decision.
Was really running everything. Really running everything, and that's just a fact. Y'all could Google that. You know what I mean? But we lose ourselves in these different concepts. The other thing I wanted to say, right, was yes, one I did want to mention, because you said your solo poly practice is the one I said last time, what's called ambiamorous. Oh, yes. That's where I found myself in my journey. At the end of the day, when I did the separation, I was trying to just go back dating and look at other individuals. And I realized I'm forcing a concept due to somebody else saying I need to always be in a throuple. and I didn't feel like I was being satisfied in no way because I was doing something for somebody, no particular person, but like just for somebody else. Just I needed to meet that expectation of a throw up when I realized at the end of the day, if it's being monogamous or being non-monogamous, whatever that situation is, if it's just me with one partner or me with multiple partners, I'm happy either way of how that looks. I don't have to sit here and say I have to be with multiple people. It's not a necessity. My happiness and peace is more of my priority. And I can find myself either way in a monogamous or non-monogamous setup and I'll still be fine. And that's why I say I'm ambiamorous.
Right. And have you ever thought of having additional partners?
I'm a very natural, organic person. Whatever develops organically, I'm for, because I need to make sure it aligns with my life. I'm a very busy individual. I got to make sure whatever it is, it's not feeling forced. I don't believe in forced concepts. That's just going to be chaotic. But no, I don't. Is it known that I have the ability to be some transparent? If I want to, I can. That possibility is there, but it's just my capacity right now is not at the forefront.
Are you at capacity?
I'm big chilling. I'm working on my second book. I'm working on a couple other projects. Right now, I love relationships and I love to watch them develop and grow naturally however needed. Right. I'm not. It's not my duty to wake up every day and make sure, good morning, queen, or hey, beautiful. I hope if something would transition into that sense to where I feel like on a daily basis, I'm nurturing a relationship unknowingly with somebody or somebody else or something like that, then cool. But it's not a priority to me. It's not stress.
One thing I'm learning, and I was like really anal about this just at the beginning of the year. Oh, I gotta talk to you when I'm talking to somebody. I gotta talk to you every day. I'm learning that that doesn't have to be a thing. If, like you said, I don't know why it was ever a thing for me. I honestly got ghosted like that because I was like putting too much pressure on the situation. And you should really just let things happen naturally. Like, because if somebody wants to talk to you every day, if somebody wants to talk to you every day, then you're going to do that. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to bring it up. And it's going to flow naturally. That means that the things that you guys are talking about, you're enjoying your conversations together. You're enjoying your time together. So that's the thing that's happening. But that doesn't mean that the relationship is any less valuable if you're not talking every day. It just means that maybe that person has a lot going on, or, like you said, letting things flow is the best.
That's how to me, I think that's the best way to actually develop relationships. Naturally, not forcing no concept. If we force something amongst each other, trying to chase something, I've done that. I've done that. It did not end well. And one thing that I've tried to stay right where I am and I align. I don't want to adopt other people's styles of anything. If people believe they want to maneuver in this space, I allow them to do that in that space. And I don't try to compete or tit for tat or anything like that, because if it's not naturally me, then I'm forcing something that's going to be off. But yeah, no, I like to talk
every day. I've gotten into a space where I don't even like to be on the phone every day. I don't want to be around you every day.
I like to sleep when I can sleep. I ain't going to hold you. No, but sometimes when I do, I know when it is time to, man, I have this one saying, right? She didn't laugh. But people that know me, because I there's a lot of people that I talk to on a daily basis. I'm a businessman, so I'm always everywhere on everything, right? But I always tell people, there's one thing you could believe that I'll be consistent on, that's being inconsistent. I'm the most consistent, inconsistent individual that you'll ever meet in your life. But when I show up, it's going to be a great time. The conversation is going to be good. I'm going to be engaged. You're going to get my undivided attention, because I know that at the end of the day, I value the relationship, friendship, or whatever it is. But I also know I'm just everywhere. It's just like that.
I'm so unorganized in my own life. Making appointments to talk on the phone every day. When I talk to you, it might be in the car, or I might call you on the car because I can't work.
That's the best time to talk to me, to catch me, is when I'm at the gym, when I'm running on the treadmill, or when I'm at the gym, because I can't do nothing. I'm not focusing on building flyers, nothing. That's the best time to call me. If you miss me after the gym, you're probably gonna miss the call. That's fakes.
So funny, but that's where growth comes at. Because when I tell you earlier this year, I was telling dude, like, why didn't you text me today? Girl, relax. It is okay. What is the significance of communication, honesty, and boundaries in non-monogamous relationships?
important. I mean, they're priority. They're what's crazy. We got to add negotiations too when it comes to communication.
Yeah.
When it comes to
And
communication,
renegotiation.
renegotiate. Yeah, yeah. Those are the main things that's going to be structured within your relationship, but how to maneuver in them. Right? You got to communicate. The way we communicate with each other, this is where we get the negotiations, renegotiations, the check-ins, being transparent, being honest. Hot. What is it? Hot, honest, open, and transparent. Right? I don't know why I know so many acronyms, man. I realize psychology books. I do. But yeah, that's why it's very important when it comes to those situations. Communication is going to really bring the foundation, the clarity for any situation for your relationship at the end of the day, right? So if we're not using these tools and applying them when it comes to a relationship and being transparent and honest and treating those things as priorities, as tools of priority in our relationship, we'll always meet a wall, or we'll always meet resistance. We'll always meet failure due to the fact that no one knows what's going on. So when it comes to those things, what'd you say? Communication, honesty,
And boundaries.
and boundaries. Boundaries is more for me, right? More for me than you. And we got to understand barriers we could break through. Barriers are not boundaries. And rules we could try to make to dictate, but rules would not really help in any type of situation. Rules are not boundaries. Boundaries are for you, and know how to set up healthy boundaries, because we can set up some bad boundaries, but those protect us in any situation. And however that plays out, and look, just know at the end we're making the choice to maneuver in a safe space for ourselves when it comes to boundaries. So yeah, boundaries, honesty, and communication are keys, are a few keys when it comes to actually having a successful non-monogamous relationship.
Mm-hmm. I know that one of my interviews I did, they were talking about how she set a boundary. So it was a throuple. They were bringing someone in, and the boundary was that, in the beginning of the relationship, I guess she didn't feel comfortable with her boyfriend and the other woman being together without her there. Mm-hmm. So, but the boundary was set with the expectation that boundary would no longer be there after a while. I thought that was dope, because a lot of people will set a boundary and that's just the end, right? But she was on some, give me some time to get used to this dynamic, and once I feel comfortable, then then y'all could do y'all, So, but just even with her understanding her feelings and her emotions behind that, and them just not having an issue with it and kind of like following suit until she felt comfortable. And now they've been together, I think they said 3 years, and they don't have that boundary anymore. Like, they all spend individual time and spread their time evenly. So
yeah, I think it's very important that I like how they did it. I still wonder if it was a boundary or a rule. Because because the rules, I know some people set rules and then remove the rules later, because rules are kind of like, this person can't visit after this time, and
with them, I don't get a sense that it was a rule, just because you have to see how well they communicate, even together. Even together, like with the three of them, they were so good at not interrupting each other. I don't know how they did it. And they kind of fell in it too. They didn't know anything about poly relationships either. And they communicate.
But yeah, no, that's why it is important to know that certain things that you do put in place, that they can be removed. And make sure everything is set in a healthy way, because at the end of the day, it's always going to cause a little more chaos and a little bit of resentment if it's set, in a foul way at the end of the day.
And I feel like even with the time limit, because she could have easily came in and been like, nope, y'all can't ever sleep together. Like, that's it. I'm not comfortable with it. This is what the rules are. And like you said, that would have created resentment. Or if she didn't speak up and she just let it flow, because she felt like, this is what I got myself into, so now I have to deal with it. That could have created resentment for her. So
Facts.
The fact that they were able to talk about it and figure out a way that worked, something that worked out for all of them, and that they're in a better place now. Because I know a couple that is struggling. Dude moved the girlfriend in without her consent, then it was just like a whole mess.
You're running these poly streets. No, but
And
that's
I'm like, there's no respect for boundaries there, like at all.
And if there's no respect for your boundaries, that's an indication that you need to go ahead and walk away from the situation. There's no fixing it, and that's just it at the end of the day. And that's the biggest thing. That's why I try to tell people, know more about relationships, self-love, self-choice, than non-monogamy. Because at the end of the day, you do get a lot of people sitting there and say, well, we're poly, we're this. No, you disrespecting my boundary. You disrespect me as a person. And I cannot find myself in a position of self-betray anymore. You're not going to understand that just knowing non-monogamy. No, study yourself. You know what I mean? Study the things that you need to make sure you maneuver in the right spaces.
Right. So what are some effective ways to challenge societal expectations and break the stigma of non-monogamy?
I'm a little sleepy. I'm staying up with you, but
you ready to end? We can end it.
No. What was the question?
It's okay. I can ask you like a closing question, and then we can end it.
What you doing?
You've been up. You've been thugging it out with me.
I was processing it. Okay. At least 3 more questions.
Okay. So, what are some effective ways to challenge societal expectations and break the stigma of non-monogamy?
Representation and education is going to be the main things out there, right? And what I mean by representation is because it's becoming, I hate to say a fad, but wave, you know what I mean? Everything that people are finding the opportunity to get clout on or trying to represent it, not representing the right way of what it truly is, you know, it's a good and bad thing, right? Because it still spreads awareness of what's going on, but then the representation of what it actually, if it ain't good, it ain't good, you know what I mean? And that just gives fuel to the fire. So I think the only way we're going to break the stigma behind it is really getting the right representation out there, supporting the right representation out there, having podcasts like your space that you've created, content that's out there for people to understand it and know what it is. At the end of the day, they can process it. Even though they may not agree with it, they can still understand it. And we don't have to put it in a position where we're glorifying it, but we're just bringing it to awareness. I think that's going to be the most important thing.
Absolutely. And how can individuals embrace their true selves and find supportive communities? Oh, did we ask that? Okay.
Yeah, see? Who's sleepy now? Who knows?
Hey, no, it's because some of these questions, I added some questions, but they sound better than the ones I already had, but they were just structured different.
Yeah, so, no, I'm messing with you.
Why is it so important to do? Okay, so why is representation and visibility of non-monogamous individuals and relationships important in the media and society?
It's important due to the fact that we need to bring awareness. Like I said, not to glorify, but awareness. And at the end of the day, to show that this can be a healthy structure for those that choose to want to do it. It ain't something that we got to hide about or someone that got to be ashamed of if this is what they identify as. So it's good to see the representation in media and on different outlets due to the fact that it gives people the empowerment to actually show up and say, hey, this is who I am. I do love multiple engagements and relationships because you got to realize a lot of people in this community are doctors, are lawyers, are police officers, are firemen, are, so people believe it's only with the Amish and the Jehovah Witnesses and we are regular people.
It's white people shit.
Yeah, that right there. Come on. You in Utah, but at the end of the day, no, it is a lot of people. But at the end of the day, the representation in the media, if it's the right representation, it empowers those individuals, those doctors, those lawyers, those therapists, those, that are living and practicing this lifestyle. So yeah, that's why it's very important. Spread awareness, not to glorify, but awareness.
Exactly. So do you have any closing words for the audience?
Any closing out statements I would say is, first and foremost, thank you for having me and running it back again. I think this time we went even longer. I don't even know. We went everywhere.
It won't tell me how. I've been trying to check to see how long we've been recording. It will not tell me.
I have no idea, but I appreciate you creating this space. I love your energy. It felt like a great conversation just talking to a friend. So it was amazing. Thank you for what you're doing. It takes a lot to actually open your doors, like I said at the beginning, for someone to actually just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit in the driver's seat and see where I could take this thing myself. And it's people like you that actually bring the awareness that's needed in the representation, the education, and the people to connect to our community, because you are not only interviewing me, you're interviewing others out of the community. You are bringing us all together, and I appreciate that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of your show.
No problem.
For those that want to come into non-monogamy, I want to just sit there and say, learn yourself, know what you align with, know what you want to do for you. Don't do nothing out of a default. Make sure it's a choice of your own. Don't sit there and adopt anybody else's style. Don't sit there and be guilt or influenced by anything outside of what is not you. Just stay on you. And if you come into a situation, practice, understand self-awareness, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, self-regulation, time management, and relationship management. Find the tools that are needed to have a successful, healthy, non-monogamous relationship or any relationship you choose at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alex. I really appreciate you saying it past your bedtime.